You're listening to Unseen Scars, a space for real voices, real pain, and real stories that often go unheard. Today's story is about second chances, about what happens when you try to rewrite a chapter you already know the ending to, hoping this time the ink won't run. Okay, here goes the story. I've been staring at this blank page for an hour, trying to find a way to start that doesn't make me sound like the world's biggest idiot. There's no good way, so I'll just say it. My ex-husband and I got back together last year. We tried again, and we failed so much harder the second time that it makes the first divorce feel like a practice round, a warm-up for the main event of catastrophic failure. We broke up, then we broke again. And this time, it shattered things I didn't even know were left to be broken. Mark and I were married for 8 years, divorced for 5. The first time around, we were classic. We met at 27, married at 29. We did the whole thing. Bought a small house with a yard that was too much work. We got a dog, a goofy golden retriever named Sully. We argued about money, about his family, about my career, the usual. He's a graphic designer, a brilliant one, but he lives in a state of, what he calls creative chaos. Piles of mail on the kitchen counter, half-empty mugs in his office, a general disregard for schedules and plans, and the basic concept of putting things back where you found them. I'm a project manager. I live by calendars and spreadsheets and labels. You can see the problem right there, can't you? It's a sitcom cliche, the slob and the neat freak. Except in real life, it stops being funny very fast. It wasn't one big thing that ended it. There was no cheating, no horrible betrayal. It was a slow erosion, a death by 1,000 paper cuts. The arguments got quieter until they stopped altogether. We started sleeping with an inch of space between us, then a foot. Then it felt like a canyon. We were roommates who shared a mortgage and a dog. The divorce was civilized. That's the word everyone used. Oh, you guys are handling this with so much maturity. We sold the house, split the money, and even managed to work out a custody schedule for the dog without a single raised voice. We hugged when we signed the final papers. I remember thinking, well, we failed at marriage, but at least we're good at divorce. How naive is that? The next 5 years were fine. I dated a couple of guys. One was a lawyer who organized his sock drawer by color, which I thought I'd love, but it turned out to be terrifying. Another was a musician who was even messier than Mark, and that was a hard no. I focused on work, got promoted twice. I built a life that was quiet and orderly and entirely my own. It was stable. It was also lonely, if I'm being honest. A deep, quiet loneliness that settles in around 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Mark and I kept in touch, barely. A happy birthday text, a Merry Christmas. When Sully got old and had to be put down, we went to the vet together. We cried in the car afterward. It was the first time I'd really felt close to him in years. It was sad, but it was a clean kind of sad, a shared memory. Then, last fall, a mutual friend had a 40th birthday party. I almost didn't go. I had a big project launching at work. I was tired, but I went, and Mark was there. He looked good. A little more gray at his temples, but the same easy smile. The same way his eyes crinkled when he laughed. We ended up talking on the patio for 3 hours. We didn't even talk about us, really. We talked about work, about movies, about how our friends were all getting weird about politics. It was just easy. It felt like putting on an old, comfortable sweatshirt. He texted me the next day. It was really good to see you. I texted back, you too. Then he asked me to coffee, and I said yes. And that was it. That was the beginning of the stupidest mistake of my life. Over coffee, we talked about the marriage. For the first time, really. We were gentle. He admitted he was a mess back then, that he never took my stress seriously, I admitted I was too rigid, that I tried to control everything because I was scared of the chaos. We used words like matured and perspective. We told ourselves a story. The story was that we were different people now. We were older, wiser, we knew what the pitfalls were so we could avoid them this time. He said, I just feel like we gave up too easily. And the lonely part of me, the part that was tired of eating dinner alone, jumped up and screamed, he's right. It was a whirlwind after that. It felt like a movie. We were sneaking around at first, not telling our friends. It was exciting. We were a secret. We'd go to little hole-in-the-wall restaurants in neighborhoods where no one knew us. He'd cook for me in my apartment, the one that was always so perfectly clean, and he'd actually wash the dishes right after. He'd leave a single dirty sock on the floor, and I would just laugh, because it was one sock, not 100. It was cute, a quirk. I let myself believe it. I really, really did. I let myself fall into the familiar comfort of him, the way he smelled, the sound of his laugh, the weight of his arm around me at night. It felt like coming home. All the sharp edges of my single life softened. My apartment didn't feel so empty anymore. We told our friends after about 2 months. They were cautious. My best friend, Sarah, just looked at me and said, "Are you sure about this?" And I gave her the whole speech about maturity and second chances and how we'd both grown so much. I think I was trying to convince myself more than her. He moved in 6 months ago. He didn't bring much at first. A few boxes of clothes, his computer. He brought over his old, worn-out college sweatshirt, the one he always wore on lazy Sundays. He put it on, and I remember burying my face in his chest, and it smelled like him, that same old smell. And I thought, this is it. We fixed it. The first crack was so small I almost missed it. It was about the thermostat. It's always the thermostat. I like the apartment at a steady 72. He likes it Arctic, around 68. One morning I came out and it was freezing. I turned it up. An hour later, I was cold again. He'd turned it back down. I mentioned it, trying to be breezy. Hey, can we try to find a happy medium on the temperature? He got this look on his face, this tight, defensive look I hadn't seen in 5 years, but recognized in a nanosecond. It's boiling in here, Anna. And I snapped back, it's my apartment, Mark. I pay the bills. The words were out before I could stop them, and they were ugly. And instantly, we weren't the new, mature 41-year-old Anna and 42-year-old Mark. We were the bitter, resentful 35-year-olds in our old kitchen having the exact same fight. The air went still. He just walked away. We didn't talk about it. We just let it hang there. A tiny crack in the new foundation. After that, the cracks started spreading. The mail started piling up on the end of the kitchen island, just like before. A letter here, a magazine there. At first, I'd move it to his desk. Then I started just leaving it there, letting it grow, a passive-aggressive monument to his carelessness. I'd walk by it a dozen times a day, and my shoulders would get tighter each time. Why couldn't he just put it away? It's not hard. It takes 10 seconds. But it wasn't about the mail. It was about the fact that I had asked him 100 times in our first marriage to please, for the love of God, not leave his mail on the kitchen counter. And here he was, doing it again. It felt like he was doing it at me, a quiet little fuck you. He started tapping his fork on his plate when he was thinking. Tap, 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 tap. A nervous, fidgety sound that used to drive me to insanity. I had completely forgotten about it. The first time he did it after we got back together, I felt a jolt of rage so pure, so out of proportion that it scared me. I didn't say anything. I just clenched my jaw and dug my fingernails into my palm under the table. How could I have forgotten that sound? All the old wounds, the ones I thought had healed into faint white scars, were still open sores just under the surface. And every little thing, every familiar annoyance was like him pouring salt right into them. And it was worse this time. So much worse. Because in our first marriage, we were fighting for something. We were fighting to save our future, our home, our life together. This time, we were just reenacting a play where we both already knew the tragic ending. Every argument was haunted by the ghosts of all our past arguments. You always shut down when I try to talk about money, and you always have to be in control of everything. The word always became a weapon. We were no longer just arguing about the current issue, we were litigating our entire history. And he knew exactly where to stick the knife. He knew all my insecurities, and I knew all of his. We were experts in hurting each other. I found myself becoming a version of myself I hated, the nagging wife, the control freak. I could hear myself talking, and I sounded like a shrew, but I couldn't stop. Because if I didn't stay on top of everything, the bills, the groceries, the plans, it wouldn't get done. And the resentment was building in me like a pressure cooker. One night, I came home from a brutal day at work. My boss had torn apart a project I'd spent months on. I was exhausted and on the verge of tears. I walked in, and the sink was full of dishes from the lunch he'd made for himself. Dirty plate, fork with dried egg on it, a greasy pan. And he was on the couch, headphones on, playing some video game. I just broke. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a screaming match. It was worse. I walked over and stood in front of the TV until he looked at me. I pointed at the sink. "I can't do this," I said. My voice was dangerously quiet. "I cannot be the only adult in this relationship. I can't work 10 hours a day and then come home and be your mother and clean up your messes." He took off his headphones. "It's a few dishes, Anna. I was gonna do them." "When? Tomorrow? Next week? You always say you're going to do it, but I'm the one who ends up doing it because I can't stand living in a pigsty." "Oh my God, here we go," he said, throwing his hands up. "I'm a pig, you're the perfect one. It's the same old story. Nothing is ever good enough for you." "This isn't about being perfect." I was crying now, hot, angry tears. "This is about wanting a partner, not a child I have to manage." "Well, maybe if you'd stop trying to manage me, I'd have some room to breathe." We stood there in the living room of my clean, quiet apartment that wasn't clean or quiet anymore, and I saw it so clearly. Nothing had changed. We hadn't matured. We had just taken a 5-year break. We were the same two people, with the same fundamental flaws that made us completely incompatible. And all that hope I'd allowed myself to feel, it just curdled in my stomach. I felt like such a fool, the biggest fool in the entire world. The end came about a month after that. It was a Tuesday night. I was paying bills online. He was sketching in a notebook on the couch. The silence was heavy. Not a comfortable silence, but a thick, suffocating one. He finally said, his voice soft, "This isn't working, is it?" I didn't look up from my laptop. I just kept staring at the screen. "No. We're the same people." "Yep." My voice didn't even tremble. I was too tired, too empty. "I guess I should pack my stuff," he said. And I just nodded. "Yeah, I guess so." That was it. No shouting, no drama, just the quiet, sad surrender of two people who had finally, definitively run out of road. He was gone by the weekend, and breaking up the second time is a special kind of hell. It's not just grief, it's grief layered with profound, humiliating shame. The first time, people bring you casseroles and wine. They say, "I'm so sorry, this must be so hard." The second time, you just get pitying looks. The unspoken, "Well, what did you expect?" hangs in the air. I had to tell Sarah. I called her and I just said, "It's over," again. And I could hear her trying to be kind, but I could also hear the "I told you so." She was too good a friend to say out loud. I had to box up his things. Again. His stupid sweatshirt was lying on a chair. I picked it up and it still smelled like him. I threw it in a garbage bag with everything else. I had to go through my phone and delete the new pictures of us, the ones where we looked so happy and hopeful. It was like methodically erasing a history that I had stupidly tried to rewrite. The loneliness that came back was 10 times worse than before. It wasn't just the quiet of an empty apartment anymore. It was the screaming silence of a confirmed failure. I hadn't just lost him again, I had lost the hope that I could ever get him back. I had lost the fantasy that we could have fixed it. I had proven to myself, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we were a mistake. Twice. I feel hollowed out. I walk around my perfectly clean, perfectly quiet apartment, and I don't feel peace. I just feel the absence of him. It's not even that I miss him, the real him with his mail piles and his fork tapping. I miss the dream of him. I miss the feeling I had for those first few months when I thought we'd done it, when I thought we'd beaten the odds. I saw on Instagram last week a picture a mutual friend posted that he was out at a bar with a group of people. He was smiling. He looked fine, happy even. It was like a punch to the gut. I know it's not fair. I want him to be happy, but I also want him to be miserable, just like me. I want him to feel the weight of this colossal failure. I want to know it broke him too. I haven't blocked him. I haven't deleted his number. I don't know why. Some pathetic, masochistic part of me keeps my phone face up on the nightstand, just in case. In case of what? An apology? An explanation? A third try? God, I hope not. I don't think I'd survive it a third time. So that's where Animus is right now. Still in it. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Dear listeners, if you've listened this far and have a story you need to get off your chest, you can share it anonymously with us. Check the channel bio for the email address. We'll be back with another story soon.